I suppose we should dive into this theory.
Yes.
About 10 and a half minutes in.
I have questions.
Go ahead.
Do you want me to do basically how I did last time, where I started with Duga 2 and then went into the mind control and then wrapped it up with the
go the
tying?
Exact same order, and if I all of a sudden run into questions that I all of a sudden decide that I remember, I'll definitely ask them.
Okay.
Do you want me to first should I explain where this theory came from first, and then we'll go right into it?
Well, because I have one more question, and I kind of
it.
wanted to flush it out with you. The whole mescaline and the gas. Yes. So I can see the Nova gas being, I kind of see more the Nova gas and the mescaline being separate. Like maybe that the Nova gas is all there in their mind because they're also trying to find the Nova gas, but the mescaline. It's really the mescaline.
Not bad.
Because that makes more sense than what I told you last time, where the mescaline is combined with the Nova Sits. I'm like, later on, I was like, that makes no sense. Like, why would the mescaline be messing with their minds if it's in the gas? Like, because something has to be triggering them first.
Kill them if they're in it way too long.
Right. But again, it could all just be in their minds. Which is why I'm kind of going more for that the mescaline is just like being sprayed into the air or something somewhere, so they're inhaling it, and
that means
picturing
that there are 3 people who have a built-in mask into their costume.
Because why do you think all the Perseus operators have masks? Ditch. The only one that Knight has a mask.
That's a mask.
I never see him wear it, but Wraith has a mask. Stitch
in the cutscene before he lifts it up, he's wearing it.
Yeah, Stitch has a mask. Naga has, and Naga's not even there, but he has a mask. Like all of the bad guys have masks, so it makes sense that they're not being affected because they're not inhaling the mescaline. Anyway, yes, go ahead, explain. Now that I've bounced that off and I'm happy with...
Yes. Okay. This is going to be interesting. So, for those of you who are going to be watching, this is going to get real entertaining. This theory came to me while I was watching one of my favorite movies. For those of you who haven't seen this movie, Kingsman, go check it out. I'm not going to leave a link in the description down below because odds are you can't find it for free anywhere. But at one point, there is this one scene where the main villain, spoiler alert, played by Samuel Jackson, has it that he's hooked up a bunch of things to everyone's phones, and when he presses a button, puts out a signal that makes everyone turn violent and start killing each other. The scene's awesome. You get to hear the epic part from Freebird. It's something you gotta just see it to believe it. But then I started thinking, I was like, alright, can that be taken back to Cold War times? Because I've been looking at the Duga radar station, and it's not there in MW 2019's, Warzone map, but then again, that's because Cold War at the time didn't have its Warzone map. But now I question, could the Duga radar station emit something similar to that, causing anyone who tries to get to Adler, anyone who happens to be in Verdansk, to turn on each other and kill each other? And because, honestly, I'm a lazy shit, I decided to let someone else go down the rabbit hole while I was taking a nap and going to work. So without further ado, Layla, are you ready to pretty much give all the details?
Yeah.
All right, go for it.
Yeah. All right, so when you approached me with this, I thought immediately that this was definitely something plausible, but required a bit more research to kind of flesh it out. So I started with the obvious, the giant freaking radar system, Duga. It was built back in 1976, so during the height of the Cold War, they built this over-the-horizon radar system to be used as part of the Soviet anti-ballistic missile early warning network. It was active from 1976 to 1989. And there was two. There was Duga 1, which the receiver and the transmitter are near Pripyat.
That's the one that's the same distance between Chernobyl and Pripyat. That's almost like you could draw a straight line between the three of them and make a triangle, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that's Duga 1, or some people also call it Duga 3. NATO called it the Steel Yard. Now, what I kind of want to focus on is Duga 2. This was built in the eastern part of Ukraine, which is also where, if my geography is correct, is where Verdansk is, because Verdansk is in the eastern part of Ukraine, whereas Chernobyl, Pripyat, and Duga 1 are all on the western part.
Is it fair to assume that the Duga radar station that we see at the end of the campaign, as well as in Zombies, would be the one that's Duga 1?
I believe so, yes, because if you go with that mission choice, Sims even says it. He says it's located near Pripyat.
Carry on.
Which is you're fine. Which is why I'm going more for that it's Duga 2 that is by Verdansk, or in Verdansk.
Verdansk.
Mainly because of the geography.
Mm-hmm.
So how these work, and I am not an engineer genius. Technology still amazes me, even 1980 technology. So a lot of this information came from this YouTube channel that I found called Mr. Matt and Mr. Che.
I'll leave a link in the description down below.
They apparently were able to go to Duga 1, which you can't take tours, even though it's inside the exclusion zone. And he did a very good breakdown of how it works. So, the transmitter sends out a signal that will bounce off of the ionosphere, which then arcs down towards Earth. When it hits Earth, it bounces off, and there's two separate signals. One keeps going forward, and then one comes back to the receiver. It kind of sounds like a woodpecker. If you ever listen to what it sounds like, there's actual audio clips of the Duga being active, and it sounds like a woodpecker, which when it first went active, people dubbed it as the Russian woodpecker. They broadcast in shortwave radio bands like Hertz, and it actually caused quite a lot of issues with other countries when it went active, because it disrupted legitimate broadcasts, amateur radio, commercial aviation, communications, utility transmission. So a lot of countries were not happy with this woodpecker thing that just came out of nowhere. Like, nobody had any idea.
This thing, or did it actually reach the entire world?
I don't know if it reached the entire world, but because of the height, it actually reached quite a ways.
Verdansk would definitely be covered by such a distance.
Right, especially if Verdansk has, I want to say Verdansk would have the receiver, maybe not the transmitter, I don't know. And I'll get more into why they would have the receiver later.
Okay.
So, theories came out when Duga went active. One of the theories was it was a weather control experiment. Some people thought it might be Soviet mind control. You also have to remember this is during the Cold War. People don't trust the Russians, so propaganda probably started coming out about Russian mind control with Duga. But expert and amateur radio hobbyists actually realized that it was an over-the-horizon radar system, and was later confirmed to be that theory was correct when the Soviet Union fell. So that's Duga. It's actually pretty cool if you really get into the nitty-gritty, and if you're smarter than me and you can actually understand how it works. I'm sure it's fascinating. It's fascinating for me. I'm just like, man, this is cool. So now we get into what would cause people to act differently than they normally would. And that's where we get into the mind control part of this theory, which is actually quite scary. Could actually make you a little bit more paranoid than some people already are.
It's 2021, and we've all kind of been locked up, so let's add a little more paranoia to the mix. What's the worst that could happen? It's not that the world is going to end while we're all playing video games.
Hey, if the world ends while I'm playing a video game with my friends, I feel like I lived a good life, and I am happy to go out that way.
You and me both. All right. Carry on.
Anyway, so... and I know I'm going to say a lot, so I apologize in advance. You'll probably have an counter in the comments.
Shh.
I feel like it'll be Monty. He'll just sit there and count.
If you know what CinemaSins is, I'm actually going to put it in the upper left corner.
Yes!
But
hey, at least I'm not saying the "you have to see this" line.
You gotta take a look at this cliche. Go ahead.
Right? So back in the 1940s, and this topic can get a little touchy, so fair warning to people. Nazi Germany and the Imperial Japanese Army were conducting experiments on people. The Japanese Imperial Army had formed this band called Unit 731, which, if you look into them, they are horrible people. Absolutely atrocious. The things that they did to the prisoners, to their prisoners, is just nauseating. So, Nazi Germany, they were conducting these mind control experiments in Auschwitz and Dachau. I apologize. I know I just butchered that name, and I'm sorry. And there was a not Russian. He comes later. There was a German scientist. His name was Kurt Plotner, and he was kind of the main one in charge of the mind control experiments. I couldn't find really much of anything on what the Unit 731 was doing for their mind control experiments. It's not really talked about. The other stuff that they were doing was talked about, but nothing with the mind control. But there was a little bit more with what Nazi Germany was doing for their mind control. And they were using kind of a psychedelic drug called mescaline. Mm-hmm. It's naturally occurring. They actually use it in peyote. And it's known for its
that type of stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Like the
like the cactus.
Yes,
that everyone.
Yes, the cactus.
Okay.
I couldn't think of the word. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. Anyway. So, mescaline is used, it's used for peyote, and it's known for its hallucinogenic effects comparable to those of LSD and psilocybin. I really struggle with that. I struggle with names. Common in the San Pedro cactus, the Peruvian torch cactus, And they were using that. They kind of wanted to see if, according to one of the prisoner nurses at Dachau, they wanted to see if it could eliminate the will of the people that were being experimented on. Plotner conducted research on 30 inmates using mescaline and concluded that it was just too unreliable to be a truth drug. So it's not so much that they were using it to mind control people.
They were trying to see if they could make them more susceptible to suggestions.
Yes.
But just like anyone taking any drugs, no two people are going to react the same. Similar to someone taking LSD or any other drugs of that area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, World War II is over. The Allies discover what's going on in these camps. They discover Unit 731. And Operation Paperclip was then launched. Operation Paperclip was a program used to bring Nazi scientists and even some Japanese scientists to America to experiment with mescaline more. They kind of wanted, this is what started the CIA's MK Ultra project. It was a continuation from what the Japanese scientists were doing as well as the Nazi scientists.
Oh yes, let's start taking Nazi projects back for ourselves. Genius plan, guys. Genius plan.
Yeah. So that's what started the MK Ultra project. They actually didn't like mescaline, so they went more with LSD. They liked how LSD affected people. In fact...
I'm sorry, that always sounds hilarious. Alright, well, how are we gonna get this guy to talk? Just give him a shit ton of... Just have him drop a gallon of LSD. Oh, God.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Red with Bruce Willis.
Yes.
So, John Malkovich's character, Marvin Boggs, he was a product of the MK Ultra experiments. He had been affected by the LSD, which is why he's like completely paranoid as all get out, because the LSD affected his mind and what they were doing with the MK Ultra. So now we get to what the Russians were trying to do. Not
Reds.
Yes, they're nice. One more interesting fact about our lovely Nazi scientist Plotner. He died in 1984.
Wait a minute. Verdansk is 1980. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird coincidence.
Yeah. So, back in the 80s, there was this Russian scientist named Igor Smirnov, and he is known for his mind control research as well as this obscure field called psychoecology. It was a human behavior study.
Okay.
He was actually enlisted by the Soviet military during the 1980s to help combat the Mujahideen and treat PTSD in Russian soldiers. They were using the psychotechnology that he was developing.
Okay.
He worked on ideas like psychocorrection, which is the use of subliminal messages to alter a subject's will or modify a person's personality without their knowledge. And they can use subliminal messaging like visual or auditory stimuli that the conscious mind cannot perceive. And it's kind of often inserted into media like television commercials or songs, like I'm not saying Alka-Seltzer is subliminal messaging, but fun little jingles like that where it'll get stuck into your head,
But it's
and you might be at the grocery.
almost like I know when we talked about this last time, I literally brought up the Wayne's World scene where it's like all this product placement, the subliminal. Hey, you know what? You need a drink. You need this. You need that.
Mm-hmm.
That commercials are just glorified subliminal messaging.
Mm-hmm. It's a way, and I promise the tinfoil hat is off for this. It's kind of a way that companies can use to promote their products. So, like, say, and one interesting is you have to already kind of have a desire to get something. So, say you're at the gas station and you're really thirsty, and like you see a product placement for Pepsi or a water, and you're like, I think I'll get a Pepsi, or that's how it works.
Or even I'll actually use Cold War as an example. When you're running around the map and all of a sudden you see Doritos bags and Mountain Dew cans from the 80s, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I really go for Mountain Dew and some Doritos.
Mm-hmm.
Same exact thing.
Yes. So, and that's pretty much the gist of it. There's different methods for subliminal stimuli. You've got like objective threshold, subjective threshold, and it's kind of just a really big rabbit hole where you go down and you kind of just turn.
Come back.
No, you kind of just end up being more like Marvin Boggs, where you're paranoid and think everything is going to come and get you. And I say that with all
fun times.
I say that because I love his character in that movie. His character was great. So that's kind of how it all works. Now, to tie it in, to try and make this theory plausible for Cold War.
Nice little bow. Go for it.
Yep. So, because, and I know you kind of started thinking about this because I asked the question, well, why are people now fighting in 1984 Verdansk, where we know in 2019 it was because Zakhaev had released the gas to make armistice turn on each other. But why are people fighting now? So, we know Stitch is in Verdansk. We know he is a Russian scientist. He was part of the Novosits production company. It is possible because Igor Smirnov didn't die until 2004. It's quite possible that Stitch and Igor could have met one another, shared some theories, and he could have taken some of these ideas. And of course, I'm sure Stitch knew about like what the Germans were doing and everything, because the Russians actually prosecuted the Germans for their war crimes on the experiments more than the Americans did.
True. And I mean, Stitch also was well aware of the numbers and that whole fun thing with the sleeper agents. Hence, at the end of that one cutscene showing off 84 Verdansk, he's talking about how what they did with, one, we'll do with, what was it, thousands?
Yes.
Which, if you said millions, that would be the world. Thousands suggests just Verdansk.
Right. And we know, well, at least we think we know, Stitch knows that Woods and the gang are coming to Verdansk because he's got Adler and they want Adler back. We already know Adler's been going through some brainwashing. We're assuming he's already had the numbers, or they either have been or they are being implemented into his mind right now. So he knows that Woods and the gang are coming to Verdansk. I think it's possible that he could set something up where using mescaline, because you can use it as you can use it airborne, that mescaline is in the air, and with the Duga... See, now this is where I get to, well, does Verdansk have the transmitter or do they have the receiver? I think they have the receiver in Verdansk because it would make more sense for the transmitter to be sending the numbers to Verdansk. Because Stitch is using Duga to transmit the numbers. So it's a broader broadcast that more people are hearing the numbers than just one person. So I think Verdansk has the receiver. So he's using the numbers to also help mess with their minds as well as the mescaline. And I think Nova 6 is playing a part because Nova 6 is colored green. And if you look at Warzone, the gas that's coming in is green as well. I don't think that the gas is actually there, though. I think this is all part of their mind control. Yes, part of the delusion, because they already know Nova 6 may or may not be a possible threat. Just because they were led on a wild goose chase for the Nova 6 doesn't mean that it's still not possible that it's a threat. So they already know about Nova 6. They're already there whining to go after Stitch and his group. So combine that all for the subliminal messaging. They kind of already want to kill people. Add in the mescaline and the numbers, and you've got a perfect recipe for why people are now turning against each other in 1984 Verdansk.
Not to mention, granted, the group is, works pretty well together, but let's face it, Woods is a hothead.
Mm-hmm.
And I could bet any amount of money, so is Wolf, so is the three of us, and anyone else going there is going to be on edge. They're already in a bad mood as it is. They just want to get Adler, get in, get out.
Mm-hmm.
Bad situation. Woods is known to lose his shit. We've seen it happen in BO2. We've seen it happen in BO1. So it's very plausible that something like this could send him over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Which would then actually that would kind of prompt Mason, but well, that's going too far down a rabbit hole. That's just pure speculation and a half.
Because we still don't know where Mason is.
Yeah, we don't know where Mason is. We don't know when Hudson's gonna step in there. Same thing with Weaver.
Oh, I hope they bring in Weaver. Anyway. But yeah, it's very plausible, and it's a little scary how well it actually works.
Now, why that drug in particular for the gas? Why that one in particular?
Out of all my research that I could find for mind control and what kind of drugs they were using, that was the most prominent. Everyone, Nazis were using it,
the most
CIA was using it.
It's the most generally accepted one out of the bunch.
Well, yes and no. It was because both parties did use it, but both parties also didn't like it. They didn't like the effects it had. It didn't.
What were the effects, out of curiosity?
So you have your hallucinogenic trips and everything. They just didn't like how it didn't turn out the way they wanted it to. So they weren't getting the effects that they wanted.
They wanted to have full control. This would be more or less just driving someone slightly insane.
Right. Like Kurt Plotner, he said it's not useful as a truth drug. So he was kind of using it more like as a truth serum, like, pay where are more of your people at, what stuff like that. The CIA, it was never really... Yeah.
Making me think of Firebase Z here.
And it's even possible that Steiner, who with Dragovich created the numbers, knew Plotner and knew about him using mescaline and said, well, just because it didn't work for him doesn't mean it might not work for us or whatever. There's nothing saying that Steiner and Dragovich used mescaline.
Yeah.
It's just that was
the fullest details of how they went about brainwashing Mason. They kind of show it, but they don't really go into the fullest details.
I think because what happened with Mason, that's the MK Ultra project. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Black Ops 1 kind of set it up where it was the Russian experiment, that the CIA wasn't doing it, but that the Russians started it first, and then in Black Ops Cold War, that's when the CIA started the MK Ultra.
Do the exact same thing.
Right, because of Bell. Where in reality, it was the CIA that started it. So, and it could be that they are also using LSD, but the fact that mescaline can be airborne has me more going towards the mescaline side. That would be the drug that Stitch was using.
LSD can it be airborne?
I don't know.
LSD would cause that kind of an effect.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you can use it as an aerosol. And I want to say that Stitch is also using LSD because we see in the cutscene where Adler is with Naga that they inject him with something, and I want to say that that's LSD. So it could be a combination of both. He could be using LSD and mescaline.
And all of that could pretty much lead to everyone trying to kill each other in Verdansk. It could lead to most of the people in there being killed off, except for perhaps someone like Woods. Which I remember the last time we discussed this, I started toying with the idea of how Woods talked about how all of his men were dead, but he never went into details of how they died.
Right.
So I always question, just from hearing you go through this theory, not once but now twice, of if he blanks out, I could easily see him killing the entire squad single-handedly. But that,
well, no.
I mean, I would pay money to sit Damon now and just kill the entire squad.
Right. I'd pay money to watch Damon Allen and MJ Crate. I'm going to screw his name up. Krazer. I was going to say Kreiser.
What are you going to say, Kaiser?
No, I was going to say Kreiser. Okay. Is this part going to be edited? Because I don't want him mad at me.
Not only am I not going to edit it, I'm going to clip this of you butchering the name, and I'm going to ask him, how is it actually pronounced?
Oh my gosh, I live in the same state as him. He's going to come after me now. I'm going to have Stitch after me. Great.
I can't tell if you're excited or scared. Both.
Yes.
Oh, Christ.
Anyway, I would love to pay to watch Woods and Stitch face off. That would be an interesting showdown to watch.
Stitch and Woods would definitely be an interesting thing. I could almost see it coming down to that it would take both Mason and Woods to take down Stitch.
Kind of like King Kong versus Godzilla.
Kind of. I mean, at a certain point, you have to remember that Stitch isn't the only one to play. You still have Knight is out there. You still got Wraith. I'm sure
you still have more. You still have the leader of the Perseus group.
Perseus is still out there.
So
now it's just a matter of, okay, how's this all going to end? Because here's the thing, we only have so many seasons left.
Right.
Because it's, I believe, 6 seasons off the top of my head. We're already in season 3. We're not halfway
And
through it. We're almost halfway.
almost halfway.
Which means we're almost halfway through this game's life cycle, and that's terrifying. That means at any moment, probably at E3, we're probably going to hear the next Call of Duty.
I'm that's pretty much a guaranteed, since aren't they going to E3?
Yeah, they're going to E3, which means
So
they're going to announce a new Crash Bandicoot game, or it's going to be Call of Duty.
I feel like it'll be Call of Duty 2021. I think that'll be the official announcement, because they already announced that there is going to be a Call of Duty 2021 in their last Quarterlings call. So I think E3 is when they'll do like.
Well, hopefully they do another event like Know Your History. That was fun.
It was fun, and then I hate how it kind of just ended, and they threw Bowman's son to the weeds. Like, okay, you served your purpose. Bye.
Yeah, they need to bring him back. I think we're pretty much done with our theory, though, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. All right, let me hit the... Oh, whoops, I need to find the mouse. There it is.